So, no, I won't start with so.
Yeah, it's a really bad way to start, I think.
I'm not going to cut this.
You know.
No, because I think people are listening and go, that's quite funny. Mm-hmm. So, oh no, I started with so again.
Don't you need like a good afternoon?
No, it's like it's this. This is the one I normally do anyway. Welcome to another episode of The Father's Rhythm.
Episode?
Yeah, because it is an episode.
Is it?
Mm. Well, because I keep doing them, so they are episodes. Right. To another episode of The Father's Rhythm. So today, me and Adam are going to have a conversation.
Hello?
So, I guess...
Was I not supposed to come in then?
No, you can. Few people will know you that are going to listen to this, but there's going to be some people that listen to this that don't have a clue who you are. So they will be aware that they're listening to. By the way, if at any moment you hear like scratching or a dog growling, it's because the dog's running about us with a ball in his mouth. It's not Adam.
Disclaimer. For those that don't know me, I don't run around and scratch.
But people that are listening to this know the theme, so they know that it's to do with God, mm-hmm. and it's to do with growth and whatever that looks like in an individual's life. But for those who don't have a clue who you are, there's the mic. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm Adam. I'm 26. I've been on a journey, I could say, for about 5 years. A journey which began of not really having any sort of background or knowledge into anything supernatural or Jesus or God or church. And a journey which started with me seeking to find something, with a thought of, if there is something that is the truth out there, I don't want to live a life without knowing that truth. And that journey has, been fun and gets more exciting every day.
Okay, so you didn't have any kind of concept of God? You didn't grow up with...
No.
Your grandparents kind of had a rough belief system, didn't they?
Grandma was brought up Catholic, and of course I think everyone has the knowledge of, well, not knowledge, but I guess everyone kind of, when you're brought up, especially in the UK, that you sing the rhymes and stuff at school, so it's kind of like a thought, there might be a God.
Jack and Jill?
Yeah, the nursery rhymes. No, he's got the whole world in his hands, So I think as a nation, in the UK, we are kind of taught, aren't we, that there is something. And obviously as you go through secondary school and whatnot, you learn about different religions and different faiths. So I had that sort of knowledge, but I definitely didn't assign myself one or, give anything to any set.
So knowing you, mm-hmm. if I was to look at your life, I'd say that you are one who believes by experience. Mm-hmm. You have experience, and then comes your belief system. So what I mean by that is it's irregular that someone tells you something verbally, or you're taught something, then you go, okay, that's what I believe now. It's more your experience teaches you what the truth is. Would that be a roundabout? Mm-hmm. Correct?
There's that idiom, isn't there, that loads of people use, and especially when you talk about faith, people say that seeing is believing, mm-hmm. but that's only half of it. And this is part of my knowledge of many things that probably isn't really relevant. The full idiom is, is it an idiom? I think that's what we'll call them. That's the proper word.
Idiom in it, but you're going on American. It's probably because of Caitlin.
Yeah, it will be. PR influence. The idiom is seeing is believing, but feeling is the truth.
Wow.
And everything that I kind of go about is from that place.
So you know, everyone has a rough idea of a concept of a creator. Mm-hmm. Let's say that, to be really rough. You didn't have any connection to this other than you grew up around nursery rhymes type of thing. Then when is your either series of or moment where you go, okay, things have just drastically changed for me in terms of my belief towards that or my connection with that.
How long have you got?
Well, depends how interesting we are. People might be tuning out now. I don't know.
So I guess the what if question, or the what if would have been when my dad died when I was little, when I was 5, as you know. And there was, as I was getting older and starting to think about, what happens later on in life, what is death, what does that look like, getting them sort of questions. My question was, what happened to my dad?
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, but other people don't, my dad was like a spiritualist, did all sort of like crystal stuff, saw people healed of cancer through crystals at his hands, and that sort of thing. And I was like, if that's a thing, where's it from and what is the truth?
Mm-hmm.
And that led me down a path to look into certain things, to start going to a few different churches, and just trying to get like a feeling.
Because there was a moment, I know that a lady invited you to go to a church and you were like, I'm not going to go. And then eventually you did. And I think you had a moment there. That was a real catalyst, wasn't it?
Yeah, so when I was about 19, I worked in a restaurant and we had a lady who used to come in quite often. And she was our resident Bible basher, as we used to call her. Come and join the club, Adam. But she used to come all the time and used to always tell us these stories, used to leave us little prayer cards and things like that. And used to always invite me. And it was a Sunday evening. They were having some sort of special service, and she asked me to come along. No, she didn't. She asked me to give her a lift. So I gave her a lift, and it was to the big parish church in Stockton. And on that evening, they had got together because Alan Farish, the priest at the time, lovely man.
What a guy.
He was. He is. His mother had just passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So they were having like a prayer time and laying hands on him and stuff like that. Anyhow, when we got there, I dropped Judith off outside, but there was a group of like lads outside, and I didn't really want like an old lady walking past on her own, so I walked her in. And I thought, if I just sit here for 10 minutes and then disappear, that'll shut her up for a bit, because she's been banging on about me going for ages. So I did. So I sat at the back, and then somebody on the microphone was like, right, let's all lay hands on Alan and pray for him. And I was like, that's a bit weird. But then what was weird is I was the only one not doing it. So I thought, I look weird now, so I better just go and do it, just to like fit in. So there's probably about 15 or 20 people there, and I'm the only one not doing it. So I went up and I laid my hand on his chest, and I felt like a pulse, a surge, a feeling, almost from his heart through my arm to mine.
How would you describe that? If someone said describe it, or is it indescribable?
You know, the best thing, probably the most like relatable thing was like, do you remember them electric chairs at the seaside, where you hold your hands on it and you've got to hold them on for as long as you can?
Like when we went to Mexico and that guy really wrote me off.
Yeah, the electric shock thing. It felt like that, like a woof. And I'm like, what's that? And then that was the next what moment of what was that? And if that is something, then I want more of it.
By the way, just to interject, why didn't that guy stop when I asked him to stop in Mexico?
He probably wanted your wallet.
Because he said, let's have a go on this. So I had a go. And then he kept turning up and I was like, right, you need to stop now. Because you can't let go of it because you're being electrocuted.
Yeah. And your hands were literally like stuck to it, weren't they?
Yeah. Anyway.
Back to me.
Back to you. Sorry, I was getting a bit insecure there because it wasn't about me. So you had that electric chair moment, electric heart moment.
So I had a feeling that there was something else going on, something else that I didn't really understand, and I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to know more about it.
Yeah. And then that was a trajectory into a journey at that point, because for you then, I'm going to pursue this in whatever form. And then you continued to go to that church, which seems legit considering that's where you had some experience that was kind of powerful.
Yeah.
And trying to, condense a story rather than go through every nook and cranny. You went to church for a good few years. And then you started to desire more. Would that be correct? Would those be the right words?
Yeah, so I think I'd got to a point where I'd made a god of the church, if that makes sense. So I was involved in as much as I could be to serve, whether that be coffee ministry on a Sunday, the council meetings, all the other stuff. I was doing everything I could to serve, to give, which is good, but the root of it I don't think was, and that in that desiring for more of God, more of understanding, more of the what ifs, I would hear stories and have like teachings at church and Bible studies and whatnot of the early church, as they call it, the disciples, like the Book of Acts, that sort of stuff. And that kind of made me think, well, why were they doing all this stuff then, but you don't hear about it now? What's happened in the meantime to be people like going to cities, or towns in God knows back when, and these miraculous changes were happening in people's lives, people being healed, raised from the dead, and water into wine, all that fun stuff. But now we're just sat in a pew getting taught how something relates to buying Costa for a homeless person instead, which not putting anything down, but like there was truly massive like miraculous stuff that we were talking about but wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that.
I think some people would say, which I've heard certainly in religious circles, is that the big miraculous thing is buying the coffee for the homeless person. And I think a point to make is that I think we would both agree with that, in the sense that that is really important.
Yep.
But I think what's happened is the importance has been put on things that we can do, that we think that we have the power to do. So anybody could buy a homeless person a cup of coffee. But
I think the biggest thing for that, at the point that I have, is that we can buy him a coffee, we can warm his heart with a coffee, or we can give him something that he doesn't have, which is Jesus, and we can change his life forever.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting one, because it's certainly, we know because we were leaders at a church, that I think a lot of the focal point is what we can administer through our power.
Yeah.
So we've got food banks, and we're able, most of us, to buy someone a coffee, etc. But I find that we focus on that because that's in our own power. But what we don't focus on is that goes beyond what we can do.
Yeah.
Because as you said, the most important thing, and this is a biblical thing, is when the beggar asks John for some money. He said, I don't have it, but what I do have, I can give to you, which is obviously far more powerful, which that particular guy needed was healing. And I think far more powerful for this generation or anybody would be to know the living God. And you're not going to know a God through a text. You're going to know a God through an encounter. And God set it up in such a way that encounters seem to come through individuals. Mm-hmm. Normally individuals that know him. So I think that's an important thing to interject with, because I wouldn't like people to come away thinking, they think that it's not important to serve the needy. It absolutely is important to serve the needy. It's not right that we would look consistently at the needy and neglect the miraculous. Because I think if we're going to look at the biblical in a whole sense, we need to understand that poverty is a thing and look to change that. But then we also can't turn away from changing water into wine, disappearing, living from heaven, and all the other things that Jesus did, because the same person that said help the poor also did all these miraculous things. And they were trying to
So I think we can go around and we can try and help everybody with our own strength, and it'd be brilliant and it'd be good for them. Or we can seek to find who we are, who heaven is, and how that what all that looks like, and then those people's needs would be met along the way.
I think that's what we've found out, isn't it? That you can do a lot of good, but what matters is that what me and Adam, the term we would use is that you live out your destiny or you live out your scroll. So Jesus said, I come in the book of my life. The Bible says that there's scrolls that have been predetermined and written that are for us, and that we can live out of our destiny. And certainly in my life, when Adam first met me, I was doing a lot of stuff. So I was praying for a lot of people. I was doing a lot of good. I was abstaining from things that I thought were immoral, etc. Now, from an outlooker in, you'd think, what a good person, consistently giving over himself to other people. And that would have been a correct assumption, I guess, to some degree. However, what I didn't know is who I was. And if you don't know who you are, you're just doing stuff.
Yep.
And stuff that might change things in the now, but not ultimately bring the kingdom of heaven for the future. And I think it could be said that you could be healing 100 people every day, but if it's not on your scroll to do so, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because it's about destiny. It's about what's been written for you to do. It's about the good works that God has ordained for you to do before the foundations of the earth, which obviously is a Bible verse. And the importance is the focus on your task. Otherwise, it's pointless.
Yep.
Because in the rhythm of the flow of life, you're doing work that was never assigned for you anyway. So that's something I know that we've learned, haven't we? Because we were doers. And then we kind of unraveled thinking, okay, what does it look like to be in the rest of God, doing the works that he created for us? Now that's been quite a biggie.
Yeah.
So, and I know that we would set if we were going to have a gravestone, on our gravestone would be in the flow of God, in the rest of God, and something that God has taught us so much, over the past 5 odd years or whatever. So how would you explain that to someone if someone's like, okay, you're talking about the rest of God or the flow of God, what does that look like to you?
So what's that Bible verse? You can probably help me out. That he leads me beside
Psalm.
Yeah,
The Psalm.
Psalm, yeah.
He leads me beside calm waters. His rod and his staff, they comfort me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one there, you might have to add it on.
32 in it. 26, 32. I don't know.
Sure, it might be 23.
Psalm 23 it is.
Psalm 23, there you go, look that up. But that to me describes rest. And the way I look at everything in life, because, everything to me in life is Jesus. I don't have separate lives, I don't have friendship, I don't have work, and then Jesus. Everything is one. And everything in my life, or more recently, has been through the rest or from a place of rest. And when I say that, I mean just recently. I worked for the ambulance service, didn't I? And I knew that a change was brewing, that I needed some new challenges. I needed something different, and I set out by myself to apply for British Transport Police, applied for the council, I applied for the nuclear police, and failed. Well, didn't get any of them. Was disheartened, and what do I do now? And then a year after that, I was in a different position where I was stopping being me power and just relaxing, because whatever will be. I like if you're on a boat with no paddles, the only way you can go is down the stream, and that's how I think the journey of God is. You're on the flow of the river, and there's nothing you can really do to get out of it. So just lie back in that canoe, rest your head, and just go with the flow. And then a year later, I applied for the 3 same jobs, and I got offers for all 3.
So do you think, because you've described the difference, and it's perfect description of, the flow versus not the flow. What did you do to get in the flow?
Stop trying. Stopped trying to make something out of something that wasn't really there. Stopped forcing things.
So would you say would you say this is correct? This has just popped to my head, that we're already in it. We're already in the boat, but many of us, for some reason, are just chucking weights down.
Yeah.
And resisting the flow.
Yeah, definitely.
And all we need to do is just throw it all out and let it go.
Just let go.
And just flow.
Relax.
So you were already in it, but you were just trying to direct the boat in different directions.
Yeah, whenever I have the conversation, people say, well, what did you do? I was like, what I did is nothing really. Like I didn't say, right, this week I'm going to stop doing this and this week I'm going to stop doing that. I just relaxed and I let go of a need for affirmation of things, a need to have something ongoing, a need to be looking or seeking from anywhere, and I just let it be. And in that time I could focus and learn what was actually important and what actions I really needed to take to have benefit.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go down a little bit of a different route here and share as much as you think's wise, but I think that for young people, you know, I don't know, whatever you classify as young, or maybe there's more people, maybe I shouldn't try and narrow that demographic, but we like to hear a testimony of something, or we like something that we can, a personal experience. Like young people, they love drugs. Like, you know, you're not everyone, but a lot, like thrill seekers, your LSDs, your ecstasies, you know, there's theme parks because we love experience. We like the thrill. And I think that I don't think there has been enough thrill in the concept of God that people say, I want a slice of that pie. And I know that you have had some experiences that are mind-blowing. And for many people, they will think, I want that. I want that thrill, in the same way where a new theme park opened and you're like, but obviously this is far greater than that. And I think experience is an extremely powerful thing, because you're not telling someone how to interpret a text. You're not teaching someone how to interpret a text or saying what someone should and shouldn't do. You're saying, this is my personal experience and this is what I believe of it. And I know that your heart would be, that can also be for you, because I know that's what you believe. So for someone listening to this that wants something to chew on, that says like, well, what you're talking about, this flow, this everything, what's happened to you then? What have you experienced? What would you share to say, hey, this is some of my journey with God and some of my experience that has built me up to who I am today? Be as raw as you want, as real as you want. Because what the good thing is here is that, number one, you're not asking anyone to believe you, because it's irrelevant ultimately personally for you what people believe. And two, people can believe what they want because they're powerful.
Yeah,
so this is just, I'm almost doing that for someone listening, not you.
So I believe that we all have like an individual quiet place. We all have like a, picture it like a sunroom or a shed at the bottom of a massive garden, where you can go and you can turn off the world and you can just be you, and you can experience and you can feel and you can love and you can be joyful in that space. And I think the most important thing for me throughout my journey so far has been finding that place of oneness, where I know who I am, and where I can rest and relax and rejuvenate. And I think there's no kind of instruction book for how you find that within yourself, and there's no like pattern to what that should look like. but I believe that everybody has that space, and it's open to them to be able to find.
So if I was to say to you, okay, what does that space look like for you? Because obviously you gave metaphorical meaning to that. So, you know, a sunroom or a shed.
Yeah.
So if I was to say, describe your space as best you can and what it looks like, what would you say?
So I think that I don't know what to say now. So I think that each individual space is kind of special to each person, and I am conscious to. I don't want to say that this is what I experienced, therefore everyone has to experience the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I also don't want to make something that other people then want, if you get me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what needs to be said is that we have this space, whether it be a shed or a garden or a river, this supernatural open area where we can be.
And you're, just for the sake of people, and you know what I'm like, I'm a nugget for having things literal and certain. You're describing a place that's not on earth.
Yeah.
So you're describing a spiritual place where you're fully conscious in this place. But what you don't want to do is describe your place exactly so people picture it and think that's what I need to have.
Yeah.
But for the sake of people listening, you're like, I experienced something that's beyond this earth that I can metaphorically describe as that.
Yeah.
And that's for you. And that you would say has been the launch pad for a lot of how you live life now inside.
Yeah. And then from that place, which is individual to everybody, I can then think about where I go with things like work or with other stuff that I do in my life. And I think that's the base for everybody to be able to see their scroll, to be able to see into their future, if you want to use them words, to be able to know where to put the the crosshairs of the gun to fire.
Mm-hmm. And I guess another important thing to mention or to discuss or whatever, because I know we've been in certain environments and talked about this, and people say things like, oh, I haven't experienced that. I really wish I could. I really want that. I know this is tough. I really want that and I don't have it. Like, you're so lucky that you can have that. And whilst I would say that, okay, that's probably not a great mindset to have towards it, I think people will think like that. I've certainly thought like that. What would you say to someone who's like, brilliant for you, mate, that sounds amazing, I really want it, but how do I get it? Like, I've never had that.
So I think it's a like I said, there's no diagram or instruction book to it. I never heard somebody talking about it and then thought, I want that exact thing, and then went for it and did a certain amount of things. What I did was I rested, I turned off the influences of the world, whatever it be, and I was like, if whatever is for me I want, and with that open heart is what you'll get.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to something else here, because experience is one thing, but experience without love is nothing. And I think there's a lot of people that have experience. We know, like, of clairvoyance and mediums and a lot of, people who practice spirituality that could talk about experience. Mm-hmm. But if you have love and it's not transformative love inside that experience, then what is it? Because it's literally been worth nothing, Yeah. So one of the most powerful things about you that I know is how you look at events in life. Mm-hmm. So because of your experience of God and your quiet place, and because of your belief in the flow of God, your reaction to external circumstances that other people would deem as either catastrophic or potentially life-threatening are completely different.
Yeah.
So so for me, the way that Adam deals with stuff, I marvel at, because, and this is another topic, but because of the way my brain's wired, and because of some of the traumatic events that have happened when I was younger, I've got a natural disposition to be more negative about certain things, which I'm coming out of. We can say, can't we? I'm learning my way out of it. Whereas Adam has gone through a process through his own experience and with God, where now he thinks totally differently towards anything like that. And one of the things that I want to talk about is the way that you look at health and the way you look at death. Because I think that everybody wants health, man. Like, look at the billions and billions of dollars that are going into stem cell therapy and trying to make you live forever. It's the most precious thing that someone can have, is their health, because it obviously is life. And I think the way you look at things, I personally am slightly jealous, but in a wholly good jealous way. And I know other people will arouse jealousy in them to hear how you think about these things. So I want you to talk a little bit about, I know that you've been through some difficult things and are currently going through something, what I guess other people would say is difficult, but maybe you wouldn't even describe it as that, I don't know. But some medical things, two main things that have, caused you to have a reaction, but your reaction's been really peaceable. So can you talk a little bit about how you think about those? Maybe share a little bit about them.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of death within it.
I guess I could. I think I'll start off with, so we as like human beings are magnificent. Like the way our bodies work, the way our bodies repair themselves, the way your blood changes to fight different infections and different stuff and all of that stuff. I can't see any other way apart from intelligent design. Whatever you put it down to, I think there's got to be an understanding of intelligent design within our being of a person. And I think if we can agree on that, for us to be designed to live to around 70, maybe a bit more if you've got a silver spoon in your mouth or however it works, and then to die and for it to be over is a bit pointless. Because what do you achieve in that? Yeah. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So then, if you look at tribes and things like that in the rainforests and stuff, places like that where they don't have all the worldly stuff that we have, and they have people who are childbearing at like 50, 60, 70 year old,
and the rest,
and people who are living till like hundreds,
yeah.
And they're eating from the ground, and all their medicinal stuff is from trees and that sort of thing. And they don't have a record of like all the badness that we have in the world, of all the like rape, murder, stealing, all of that stuff. It's not a thing. They're just a family, a community that live and eat and love and grow for quite a while before they die. And I think personally that we are kind of, what's the right word for it? I think we're customed, or we're like prepared by the world to be a certain way. So we're like conformed is the word. So like we're conformed to a position to have breakfast, lunch and dinner. You've got to eat 3 times a day. Breakfast the most important meal of the day. All this stuff you've got to do to then to live.
Be healthy.
Yeah, be healthy. But
that's
then,
like the baseline of normality. So
yeah.
if you're not in line with it, your brain's telling you, well, something's not right.
Exactly. But then you look at like the animal kingdom. Like they eat when they're hungry, and they don't a lot of the time. You know, they exert, they eat a big meal, and then they chill out, have fun, and the rest of the time. But I think basing that, so my outlook is that I don't think I'm designed to die. I know I'm not designed to die. I'm designed to live and to prosper and to do good and to have fun and to love and to share. So if that end game is not death, then what could it possibly be? Because if it's not death, it means it's brilliant. So, as you know, and some of the people who listen to this do, about 6 weeks ago now, I went for an eye test, and the optician said she'd noticed something behind my eye, and wanted me to go get it checked out at the hospital. So I had to go straight to the hospital for an emergency and get scans and looked at and all this stuff. And there was something they were concerned about behind my left eye. That transpired that it could be a tumour, it could be a growth, it could be numerous things. Had an MRI scan, got stopped from driving, which has been a nightmare. I think a nightmare for you as well, Joe, having to take me everywhere. Yeah, so I had my MRI scan. That shows something that my brain is putting pressure on my spinal cord, so I might need an operation to come out of that. I have to have a few more scans and things. But I know that I am intelligently designed to live, to love, to share, to have fun, and all the rest of it. I know that I'm not intelligently designed to just die. So whatever is going on in my head has already been thought about, and just needs sorting out. So it can't have any effect on the future.
That's negative.
That's negative.
So I'm going to pick about in some of the things you said. So first of all, I think we'll hold that. And to go back to the whole tribal thing, I think it's a cool thing for people to know that so much disease comes from a stressful imbalance. You're right.
Just getting a drink.
I'll wait till he comes back. There he is. A lot of disease, some people argue all disease actually, comes from stressful imbalance. So hormonal imbalances inside of you. We know that high cortisol levels, or cortisol and the other hormone that I can't think of right now for some particular reason, but it's going to come to me. But anyway, those two levels of a particular hormone, we know that imbalance causes things like heart disease, lung disease, cancers, etc., high blood pressure. So it would be quite simple to understand that living in a stressful society, a society that demands from you, will create a stress inside of you. A society that's traumatic will create stress inside of you, which will lead to disease. I don't think anymore that is a debatable thing. I mean, we've got facts for this now. So you go back to the tribe, and you kind of describe they're like a utopian tribe, living in community. Of course, there'll be some that will rape and murder. That's the reality. I mean, some tribal people are crackers, they fight each other, but there'll be some that aren't, and some that, you know, just really do live as a community, live off the ground. They don't have the carcinogenics, etc., and they'll live for way, way longer. They won't have the stresses because they won't be subject to Western world, and you need to have. You need to cover. You don't have enough. La 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 la. So I think that's awesome to say, and we in Christ can rewind what we've been taught by the world, so we can start living from that utopia inside. And it might look like the utopia is not around us, but eventually it'll actually flow out of us and then create that. And I think we've already seen that in our community, is that we both went inward and in a desire to know more of God. And what's been created around us is the rest of what starting to look like a utopian society. Like, we share together, we love together, we laugh together, we enjoy together. If you heard a bang there, that's the kid kicking the ball against the window, and the dog should bark anytime now. That wasn't utopian, and I really want to put a knife through it. But anyway, but we've started to develop that. So that will mean that inside of that, we have less stress, less worry, more joy, etc., etc., which will propel us into greater, what we would call health in the body. So that's one little thing that I want to say there. But then you were talking about what they said about diagnosis, etc. And I remember when you first came back, because you rang me on the phone and you were like slightly upset, and I was like, flipping out, yeah, that must be 26-year-old. Someone tells you could have a brain tumor. That's not nice to hear. And when you came in, I was like, bro, flipping out, like, are you all right or whatever? And then you, with tears in your eyes, said, it's not it's not to do with the fact I might have a tumour, because I know I'll be fine. It's that I can't drive.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting that on, guys. That's exactly, it was only me and him, and that's how he responded. And I was so taken back by it when I went upstairs to do my hair, because I like to. I said, Adam, you're not doing that just so I'll be okay, because I thought he might be doing it because he thought I'd be upset, because he's my best mate, so I don't want him to, get a diagnosis like that. And I would say that Adam thinks differently to me about that. And I'm jealous of his thinking, by the way. It's not like I don't agree with his thinking, I do. I'm just not quite there yet. I'm getting there, though. But then you said to me, bro, I'm not. Like, I'm genuinely not worried. Mm-hmm. And I would say, observing your life, you're not worried about it. You certainly don't exhibit anything that would say to me that you're worried about a futuristic event where it's catastrophic. You would say things like, look, if you, like you said earlier, you're like, I might get my head shaved up, so if I need the operation, it won't take my hair out, type of thing.
Yeah.
Because to you, whatever process needs to happen will happen, but nothing can take you from destiny, and your destiny isn't death.
Exactly.
And I think for a lot of people, that'll be hard to get their head round, because the concept of I can't die, they'll be like, well, what do you mean you can't die? And of course, you have to understand that you have to sprinkle this conversation with faith. Mm-hmm. No matter what background you listen to two people who have faith. So we're not talking in a merely earthly or physical manner. But we live our life out of the same blueprint that Jesus lived his. And Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. No one can take my life from me, because I've laid my life down. So we have laid our lives down, and now we're walking out destiny in the flow of God, and nothing can take us from that. And we know through experience in God that our future doesn't have death in it. We don't know if one day we take the flesh off or not. Who knows, right? But right now we know that the task in front of us for this foreseeable future, there's no death written in it.
Yeah.
So then we can have anything come our way externally, and it can't change our internal world. I remember saying to you, it's funny, I was like, how are you, like a few days after, I was like, how are you feeling about this, bro? And there was a slight bit of like discomfort, aggression in your voice. You were like, why are you asking me how I feel? I feel who I am.
Yeah.
But that actually really impacted me, because you said, I feel who I am. Nothing's going to change who I am. And like, that kind of blew me away a bit. And I kept thinking about it after, because you were basically saying, what do you mean by a feeling? I don't have any feeling towards it, because I know who I am, and who I am is my feeling. So the things you've described is, I'm not death, I am life. I am love, I am laughter, I am prosperity, I am in the flow, and all these things. That is your feeling.
Yeah, and that feeling is my truth, and nothing can change that, because it is what it is. So you can label anything, you can give me anything, but nothing can deviate away from the truth. And
just to give you the listeners a bigger picture of this as well, it's not only that, but not that long ago, you went to the hospital with suspected sepsis, mm-hmm. and you were very close to...
So I had sepsis.
Yeah, oh yeah. And
that was like that one there was a funny thing for me and you, because you were like, well, why are you going to have sepsis if like you're not going to die? So why would it be sepsis? Why do you need to go to the hospital? Remember? And I was like,
so this is good. Mm-hmm. So just to again give him a prequel to this, what you're about to say. You were really ill. You couldn't even get up the stairs. You were being sick and stuff, and that's when it got to the end of it. But you were saying maybe I need to go to the hospital. But my viewpoint was, why do we need to go to the hospital? Like, we know who we are. Nothing's going to happen to us. Mm-hmm. So we don't need a hospital. We've got God.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's that was a decent-ish view to have. But in that particular moment, if I'd have stuck to that view, there we go. There we go. Right. Rocky!
Come on, Rock.
The kids are kicking the ball at the window again. So my view was that. So if we've got... Rocky, stop, mate. Stop. So my view is, if we've got God, we don't need a hospital. If I'd have stuck to that wasn't very wise, although it was pretty faithful. But you got to the point where you're like, no, I believe that I need to go.
Yeah.
And then you did go. And luckily, well, no, actually, that's not the right word to use, because in the flow, there's no luck. It was designed in such a way where you went, where they literally caught it in just enough time for things to be okay. So it was all written.
Yeah. So then, and it was, for me, I was like caught between, obviously, a bit of bit of background I have from working in the ambulance service and whatnot, and knowing or seeing the signs of sepsis and thinking I've got an infection here and I need to do something about it, to then being like, it can't have anything over me anyway because of who I am. So I was a bit between a rock and a hard place of what do I do, and my decision was to, I think I need to go to the hospital now, and I did. Drove there myself, and they measure sepsis from your lactate levels in your blood, and my anything over 2 or 0.2, I think it's 2, is really, really bad. You've got to be in intensive care normally, and flushed with like loads of antibiotics and stuff, and you'll be out for a little bit. Mine was 1.8 at the point where I went. So I had about 8 hours of intravenous IV antibiotics and stuff pushed through me, and then I was sorted. A few ropey days after that, but.
And I even remember in that moment when you rang and you explained, you said to me, yeah, this is challenging me, but ultimately I know that this can't take me away.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying that at that point. And the reason that I guess I'm highlighting stories is because the truth is I do want to arouse jealousy in people, because I think that your mindset towards that is such a powerful one. And as I said to you before we started to do this podcast, the only thing that separates somebody who thinks like that to not thinking like that is literally the way that they think, because the truth is the truth. So you can't change the truth.
Yeah.
So once you're in the flow and you know your destiny, you know your life, that's it. That is what your truth is. Now, if you think differently about that truth, the only thing that differs is literally the way that you think. And obviously the way that you think is the basis for how you live life. So you need to change that. However, the good news is that we can rethink, we can rewire. And for example, for me in that area, that's something that I'm learning to rewire, because I have the same belief system as you, certainly when it comes to that. But because of my negative disposition, because of certain experiences I've had when I'm younger, my brain says no. So if I had that, my brain would go worry, 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 worry. But the good news is that you can rewire, because your brain is plastic. It's called neuroplasticity. So thinking differently, creating new pathways, heavenly pathways, as I call it, in your brain, basically sets your system up to think heavenly. And perhaps that's really important as we start to close this up now for people to know, is that this is all about a transformation and transforming the way that we think through experience. And God is heaven bent on us thinking differently, so much so that he will kick and headbutt us if needs be, to think the way that he thinks, because the way that he thinks is freedom. So just as a little side note, is that everybody listening to this, you included, Adam, me included, we have had traumatic childhood and traumatic events, and they have set us up to think a certain way. Yeah. And because we think that way, we'll go into environments that in some way are similar, or they don't even have to be similar. There could be just a look of something, a sound of something, or something like that, that will trigger us into going down the same pathways as we did before, because trauma creates neural pathways in us, and we've all had that. But the good news is, like your life is a testimony here, is that we can rewire that through experience with God and think heavenly. So we can think like, I know my destiny, because we'll have had it revealed, and therefore death has no power over me. We can think like, I am a son of God, here to do the will of God, knowing the path that God set out for me. And if that is the path that God has set out for me, and I'm on that path and I'm in that boat, nothing can take me off it. Nothing. The only thing that will take me off it is if I start, and it won't even necessarily take you off it, it'll just prevent you going down the stream for a while, if I start putting weights down, or if I start trying to row myself, and then you go off course or a different direction. So important for people to know that not only is this accessible, but this is a transformational journey of experience where you continually think like God, thinking differently like God. I don't know if people know this, but the word faith in Greek is pistis, and it means to be convinced of. So it literally, having faith is to be convinced by God. So God is in the business of convincing us. I
didn't know that.
About who we are. Did you know?
No.
So it's accessible. It's for everyone. It removes death from a mindset, which is the most powerful thing. And I think all of those things lead to, ultimately, greater levels of what we would call health.
Yeah.
But I think the deeper you go, even the word health becomes a bit shady.
Yeah.
Because what is health if there's no unhealth?
Yeah.
But that's another road to go down, isn't it?
Another story for another day, I think.
Right, guys. Well, thank you very much for listening. Cheers for sharing your heart, bro.
If you got this far, thank you, yeah.
Well, we've done
How long?
50 minutes.
Wow.
I don't know if there's anything that we'll cut out of it apart from the start when... Oh, maybe Rocky's barking.
Maybe.
I don't know. So, thank you very much, guys. Shalom. All the best. Speak soon.